Alright guys, do you remember Avowed? You know, that RPG, not RPG, that game they don't want you to have your standards set too high for because they know it's never going to live up, right? They know it will not meet your expectations as a fantasy RPG. Well, this game's not doing well. It launched very poorly. It didn't have a whole lot of people playing it at the time. Allegedly, 6 million people have played it. Most of them, I'm sure, on Game Pass, but nobody's playing it on Steam. Well, the gamer is still trying their hardest to say how amazing this game is. Tessa Cower, a journalist that we have covered in the past at The Gamer, is saying, I've barely started Avowed and I'm already looking forward to my next playthrough. Now, if this sounds familiar, you'll know why in a minute. More honest sites like Niche Gamer are going to give you the absolute brutal honesty when you get down to their review of this game. It says it has all the aesthetic characteristics of recent horrible corporate products that are made by activists who hate their consumers. This sounds like 90% of what comes out of the AAA video game industry at this point. Extremely limited role-playing and sloppy character animation, empty, unconvincing world without interactivity, no activities like fishing or minigames, unbearably trite going native, and anti-colonialism plot. Pretty much sounds like, you know, any activist's fever dream or wet dream at this point. But again, Tessa Cower can't help herself. Avowed's lore dictionary should be the new RPG standard. Funny, a game that is very, very poorly rated in terms of RPG mechanics has one that just needs to be the new standard. And it's this whole interactive codex thing within the dialogue boxes. Again, sure, that's fine. Most people don't really need it, but okay, cool, whatever. But this is why the game has nobody playing it. Less than 3,000 people playing it currently, with a peak the last 24 hours of 3,232 people. It never broke 20,000 on Steam, despite the fact that it had a very, very, widely publicized launch, a lot of advertising. They tried like hell to make this game stick, and it just didn't work. Now, if that sounds familiar, think about Dragon Age: The Veilguard when that one came out last year. They are now trying their hardest to say every reason except for the fact that the game was a bad game as to why it failed. From Push Square, we saw this previously that said Dragon Age: The Veilguard failed because it wasn't live service, EA CEO seems to suggest. Basically, if it was a live service game, it would have done gangbusters, right? It would have been so much better had it been live service. We saw The Gamer, again, just a few days ago, 6 days ago, say, why isn't Monster Hunter Wilds flopping like Dragon Age: The Veilguard? Trying to scratch their brain and figure out what the hell's going on. Why is this game not selling? People should love this game. It's got, Tosh, and it's got non-binary characters, and it's got lectures about pronouns and gender identities. Why is this game not selling, Well, the long and the short of it is Dragon Age Veilguard is not just not selling, it's not even getting played on PlayStation Plus for free. So from Tech for Gamers, you see this article that says Dragon Age: The Veilguard fails to take off even on PS Plus. Dragon Age: The Veilguard was released very disappointingly last year. I think they're being a little gracious with that. It was extremely disappointingly. While fans had massive expectations before the release, no, they didn't. We all pretty much knew the game was going to be shit. That's why nobody bought it. That's why nobody played it. Come on. A significant poll found that the title was the most disappointing release of 2024. And that's saying something because you also had Concord that came out last year. Even though the developers had massive expectations, a recent report suggested the developers were hoping the game would sell over 10 million copies, which was not a stretch. It certainly could have hit that had it been a good game. In 3 months, but sold over just 1 million copies in around 2 months. The game was recently released on Plus Plus, that's an interesting thing to say, and it appears that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Cowabunga Collection had more players than the recently launched Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Hey, no shade to Ninja Turtles, those games are awesome. Why it matters? It's sad that a 2-year-old title had more players count than a recently launched title. And you can see all the way down here at number 15, Dragon Age: The Veilguard on PlayStation Plus. This is just abysmal. It's why you see right now it has a peak, let me get this back up here for you, a peak concurrent player, 24-hour player count of less than 2,000 players. And I mean, hell, they at least managed to come close to 90,000 4 months ago, but that was it. The game should have done gangbusters, and it just fell right off the map. And again, the media is still not able to figure out why this is. Why is the game sitting at 69% on Steam? Why is nobody playing it? Why is nobody playing it on PlayStation Plus? Why did nobody play it then? Why do people mock and laugh at characters like Tosh and the whole pulling a barf thing? And again, the lectures about pronouns and crap. And again, this is like in games when you have the chest surgery scars. Why do gamers mock this? Because it's asinine virtue signaling and nobody's asking for that. Despite that, there have been some successful games that have come out. Like Split Fiction, a game that has been called woke by some people. I have not played it myself. To me personally, it doesn't look woke. From everything I hear about it, it's just a cool couch co-op game, so I know it's not for me. Not the kind of game that I'm going to play unless I was sitting down to play with my kids on the Nintendo or the Xbox, which I rarely do these days. That being said, Split Fiction has a 91 universal acclaim Metacritic score based on 90 critic reviews with an 8.9 by users. That's pretty freaking fantastic. You don't see that very often. And of course, you can see currently it has a 24-hour player peak of 219,000 people. The game is doing incredible. I believe it's already sold 2 million copies. But guess who has a problem with that? You guessed it, Tessa Cower over at The Gamer. Now, here's the funny thing. A lot of people have said this game is woke because feminism, because women, because gay coded. I don't know. Right, guys, there are red flags. I looked at this game when I first saw the launch trailer for it, the reveal trailer, and I said, yeah, it could be some girl boss crap. Not really my cup of tea. I didn't play It Takes Two. Again, I'm not into couch co-op games typically. So for me, I already knew, good or bad, I'm not going to play it. So whatever. So I'm not telling you guys to play it. Again, this is not an endorsement of the game itself. But what I do find funny is when there's a few bad apples who are screeching that the game is woke because it has girls in it. Not even ugly girls, just normal looking girls in it. That's really telling when the gamer comes out and says basically, oh, well, the game's fine, but it just doesn't do X, Y, or Z. You know the game, if it was woke, they would not have a single negative thing to say about it. But just check this article out. Split Fiction is a game about writers that doesn't understand writing. Now, I'm going to spare you guys most of this article. You can kind of imagine what it goes on to say. But Tessa here says, Split Fiction launched on my birthday, which felt like a little gift from game director Joseph Fares to myself, handed down through the malevolent corporate gods we know as Electronic Arts. I therefore spent my afternoon playing it with a writer friend. It felt like an apt thing to do. We're both gamers and writers, though one of us is actually successful, and the other has a folder in their email inbox with like 100 literary journal rejections. Already too long-winded, Tessa. I expected us both to feel represented to some extent in this game. Yes, because we're writers, so we need to be represented in this game because they're writers too. Do you guys see what's going on here? These people are absolutely insane. But by the end of our long first play session, I was left sorely disappointed. It doesn't seem like Split Fiction is a game about writing. In fact, I'm not sure it understands writing at all. No, it's a game about being a video game and being fun, which is everything I've heard about it. Is the dialogue's a little cringe, but the gameplay is great. And guess what, guys? I'm 38 years old. When I play a new game these days, or even go back and play older games, occasionally, even in Halo games, you'll hear some cringy dialogue. That's video games. Not every game is going to be like a blockbuster, Oscar award-winning performance by some, amazing actor. It's not going to always be a 10 out of 10, cutscene or dialogue. Sometimes the lines are going to be cringe. It's okay. That happens once in a while. Split Fiction is ostensibly a game about writers. Heroines Mio and Zoe both are writers who've been invited by a company called Raider Publishing to test out some kind of simulation. Yeah, we all know the gist, right? The writers are shepherded in the device, creatively called the Machine, which simulates the stories in their heads, blah, 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 blah. Despite this writerly premise, Split Fiction doesn't get writing. I don't necessarily mean that it's badly written, although it definitely is. The dialogue between the two protagonists is trite and boring. The characters are tropey and feel like they were written solely to act in opposition to each other. A classic enemies to friends arc if I've ever seen one. The problem is she has no friends. And the entire premise acts only as a vehicle for the gameplay, a reason to explore two different genres in tandem without really engaging with the concept of originality, though its story might lead you to believe it will. So I'm gonna stop with the article, guys. Here's the long and the short of it. The gameplay is fantastic from everything that I've seen. If you like co-op, couch co-op kind of games, great. The game looks awesome. The problem is she didn't have enough cutscenes. She didn't have enough hours of wasted exposition of two women discussing their feelings. And again, these characters were based on the game director's daughters. She's probably mad there wasn't any scissoring or any lesbian relationship in it. Let's be honest about this. This is all these people are obsessed with, okay? But again, take it or leave it. Plenty of people have said the game's not woke, the game's fun. Just go enjoy it if it's the kind of game you like. Again, personally, not going to play it, not my thing. Maybe down the road, if somebody convinces me to play with them, I'll play it. But again, I just find it funny that when a few people scream that the game's woke, but the overall majority of people say, nah, the game's just fine, articles like this tell me it's not. Because if there was elements to it that definitely pandered to, again, the far leftists and the DEI pushers in the gaming media and the gaming industry, you'd hear about it. They wouldn't have these negative things to nitpick it about. So again, I'm gonna leave it right there. Let me know what you guys think about all this, and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have two channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kickforma gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.